This episode is brought to you by Global Comics. This is the comics reading app that is changing the face of independent comics. You can go to Global Comics and browse thousands of books from hundreds of publishers, including Dark Horse, Image, Dynamite, AWA, and even individual Kickstarter creators as well. Or you can purchase a monthly or even an annual pass and read all the comics you want for one low fee. For 33% off that annual pass, use the code GCXBJKicks at comicsaredope.com/global. That's comicsaredope.com/global. Well, guys, tonight, again, I always say tonight, even though these episodes premiere at 6 a.m, but tonight I have two very special guests. This conversation's been one that's been in the works for a little while. It's not often that I have multiple guests, and I think this is the first time that I'm actually interviewing the writer and artist of an upcoming book at the same time. And it's even more unique because these two are an item. So it's fun. So today, or tonight, I'm talking to Amanda Deibert and Cat Staggs. How are you today?
Hi, we're great.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. So again, I'm excited to kind of get this one on the books. I know we had some scheduling issues last time around when Darkwing premiered. I think it was, I don't know if it was the hardcover collection or if it was when the book first premiered, but we had some different things going on, so it was cool. So I'm excited to kind of circle back around. One thing, well, it's funny, we actually have quite a few things in common. Right, Amanda and I, we've got ties to North Carolina. I'm still here. We're both North Carolina basketball fans, or North Carolina Tar Heel fans, I should say. Mm-hmm. And we both have partners who work from home with us for the same company, which is interesting.
Are we the same person?
Right. I don't know. We might be.
No one's ever seen us in the same place. We might be.
It's true. And so that's kind of where I wanted to start this conversation, because I became aware of you, Amanda, through Darkwing Duck. And Kat, you the same way, because you were doing variant covers on that book. And, you know, we've been friendly on Twitter. And so I get to see, like, you know, your soccer mom aspirations and things. But I am curious because, like, I work from home. My wife works from home. And I feel like all of our conversations, well, a lot of them are about work and like specific goings on in the office. Oh, this girl said this. How do you know the person I need to call in this department? So with this being, to my knowledge, you guys' first time kind of teaming up on a direct market book as a writer and artist pair, how has it been sort of going from, okay, we kind of work in the same field and we both work from home, to we're working on this project together? How's that been for you guys?
Well, we have worked on things together in the past. So the thing with us is, like, sometimes we work together, and then we also both often work with other people. So we have, you know, it's definitely a dynamic that kind of changes and goes back and forth. And it's great. It's great either way, because when we're working on things separately, we still kind of, because we are both artists in the same industry, but in different field, you know, because I write and she is a visual artist, we know a lot about what the other person does, but we still have that opposite perspective, which makes it, in my opinion, a really nice person to run it by. You know, I can look at a script, especially when I'm working with somebody else, and say, does this make sense to you? Would you understand what I'm saying here? Like, visually, would that be something that you can do that's easy? And that's nice. And then when it's us actually working together, it becomes just a really nice shorthand that we have, because we know each other so well that it's like, I'm not as worried that she won't understand what I mean. And I know that she'll just make it cool.
Right. So now you guys, one of you writes, one of you draws. Is that what sort of attracted you to each other? Or is this kind of a happy accident?
Well, Amanda was doing something else when I met her. She was acting at the time when I met her. She started writing, like a year or two later?
Well, I was writing already, but I meant professionally. So it was kind of a happy accident, really. I mean, Kat was a talented artist. It wasn't that I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of it. It was certainly part of the attraction. But no, we kind of met separately from that, and then eventually ended up working together.
Yeah, the working together just kind of fell into it.
Nice. So Kat, I guess I'd start with just asking sort of how you got into art and how you decided on comics art.
Well, I decided on art when I was a little kid, and I stuck with it. And luckily, my parents were very encouraging. I did, though, want to do animation, and then I realized I didn't want to do animation. So comics was like the next line of storytelling, without having, I mean, while I do draw 1,000 drawings a year, I'm not doing like 10,000 drawings by hand,
Right.
to make 3 seconds of film. So I started doing trading cards, and that kind of backdoored me into comics that way. I started doing stuff for Topps, for Lucasfilm. I did some Marvel stuff. I did some DC stuff in the card world, and then did some more stuff with Lucasfilm, and then fell into comics that way.
And so with art, I feel like I don't know, we spend so much time just kind of being afraid that we won't have careers, right? And so to be able to sort of find a niche has got to feel great.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate that since I graduated college, I've managed to always have an art job. So that's been nice. I did airbrushing t-shirts and cars for a while, and then I was a visual merchandiser for Sam Goody Musicland. And then I went into comics from there.
Nice. And so with that, like carving out a career in art, do you like aspire to do comic art? Do you kind of find it and you're like, oh, this is cool, I want to keep doing this? Like, how does that go for you?
Yeah, I guess I just, when I started going to conventions, I was mostly just doing, like spot illustration, like, pinups and cover styles and stuff like that. And then, I really got interested in storytelling and, of interiors, and just, tried to learn all the tricks of the trade in that area so I could expand my skill set and be able to start doing that kind of stuff. Because I found it very interesting to work on. Yeah.
Got you. So as you're sort of on ramping and kind of immersing yourself in the world of sequential art, what are the things that are keeping you like, okay, yeah, definitely like, or what, maybe the better question is, what are the things that you found as you've been doing more sequential art that you love about it that kind of make you want to keep going doing more?
It really is. I enjoy this. I really enjoy the storytelling. I enjoy it's kind of like a giant puzzle. The book is kind of like a giant puzzle, and I enjoy trying to put it together and make one big long piece of art. I try and treat each interior job like one big piece. That's at least that's how I visualize it when I do start working on it.
Got you. And so Amanda, from what I've read or seen, like you've kind of had like a pretty winding path to get here as well.
For sure.
You mentioned that you were acting and you've done some like television writing, and now you're writing comics. How's the journey been or felt for you? And do you feel like you found like a nice home here?
I do. I mean, I still write for TV as well. The nice thing is screenwriting and comic writing. They go together very well, and it's really fun to do both. I love writing comics. I think it's the most fun kind of writing that I do. There's such a creative freedom in it, and still the collaboration part of it, which is also what I like about doing TV and film. But yeah, it was kind of a winding journey. I was an actor, and then I was also started writing for TV. And early on in that, it was actually when Kat and I started dating that I was working for like this comedy website, and I was doing videos for them. And then I started writing weekly comic strips for them that Kat would illustrate. And they were just like embarrassing stories from my life. Mm. So we did that for weekly for like 2 years. And that was kind of my foray into comic writing and like learning the format. And then I started submitting to comic book anthologies and different things like that and learning more about doing it. And then I actually was doing a comedy video. I was orphaned when I was young, and I was doing, which is hilarious, obviously. So I was doing a comedy video where on Father's Day, where slowly throughout the video, without commenting on it, I was slowly turning into Batman. And it went around like the DC Comics offices, and one of the editors reached out to me, and she had seen the comic strips that we had done and some of my work in the anthologies. And then she was like, and I really liked your video. It was really funny. Do you want to try writing a Wonder Woman story? And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. I'll start with the most iconic female superhero of all time. What could go wrong? No pressure. I'm not scared of freaking out. This will be fine. And I didn't, I guess, ruin it, because then they kept hiring me.
No, you did not ruin that.
So that's how it started. And actually, Kat illustrated that story, the first story I did for DC. So that's how I got started. And so it was kind of a meandering path and doing TV at the same time. But yeah, it's been great. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, definitely not hilarious. Well, I guess hilarious. So, well, like I said, the way I kind of came to know you guys was through this Dynamite Darkwing Duck series. For me, I grew up with Darkwing. I say I grew up with Darkwing. What's funny is I had the VHS of Just Us Justice Ducks, which is like, I think it's either a 2 or a 3-part episode, but basically, you see the Justice Ducks come together, Morgana turning people into pudding, and it's kind of, I feel like if you're gonna watch one set of Darkwing episodes, it'd be that. Yeah. But that was all I watched. I just watched that same tape over and over again as a kid. So being an adult, they put it on Disney Plus, and it's like, oh snap, there's all this Darkwing that I missed out on. I might have seen like an episode here and there at like daycare or something. But anyway, I got into comics back in 2019, so I had even missed like the Boom series. So for me, you guys' series was my first introduction to Darkwing in comics, and I was just like, yes, give me that. I need more of that. And then it got extended because I thought it was supposed to be like 6 issues. Ended up being 10. And it spun out into Justice Ducks, and they just wrapped Negaduck like this week. So it's been great. But for me, kind of digging into interviews that you've done, just sort of talking about your inspiration and experience with Darkwing and rewatching it with your daughter, it's just been like, okay, well, that's really cool. And I just vibe with that a lot. But also, I really love that comic. Like,
thanks, I'm glad.
I feel like it captures all the great things about the show, right? Like Carlo's art, obviously, like it looks like it comes straight off the screen.
He killed it. He absolutely killed it.
It's amazing. But also like your voices for the characters, and even like some new things, right? Like there's a moment where Darkwing is fighting Morgana's dad, like, okay, I'm going to have Morgana, and because he had stolen Launchpad as a sidekick. And so there's this moment where they're kind of fighting over who gets who, like, okay, well, I'll trade you Launchpad for Morgana. And Morgana's like, well, how about we don't belong to anyone? And you both can shut it.
Yeah.
And no, I love that moment, like sort of giving her agency and kind of showing her power. Because a lot of times, at least when I've seen Morgana on the show, it's been like a lot of like snafus with her powers. Like, oh, I tried to do this, I didn't quite get it, like comic relief. So in that moment, just one, showing her actual strength and, her powers in use, but then also just the strength of her as a woman and as a character, I thought was really cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you. She's one of my favorite characters, so it was really fun to write. But the whole thing was really fun to write. My hope was that it would feel like watching the cartoons like when we were kids, had that feeling, but in a way that felt maybe a little more modern in the world we're in now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I especially love Goslin begging for a cell phone just as a recurring. We finally caved and got my 14-year-old a cell phone this year and almost immediately regret it, but
sure. That sounds right. That sounds right.
So I am curious to know, like, just because, I mean, my wife and I both work from home, but we work for a pretty boring job, right? But you guys are working in comics. Like, how does that go with your daughter? Like, how is she looking at you guys right now? You got to be like the heroes of the neighborhood.
I mean, right now it's cool because she's 9.5. So we still get to be cool doing this. In a few years, I'm sure it'll be cringe. Mm-hmm. But for now, yeah, it is cool. It's, we just did the Scholastic Book Fair at her school last week. And I had 2 Rocket and Groot books that were in the book fair. And so I was like signing them for all the kids at the school while they were buying them and stuff. So like right now it does give her some fun credibility. And she really likes, like today I was working on some more pitches for some things that are tied into cartoons that she loves and knows really well. And so then I was running them by her, does this seem like a good idea? And then she'd be like, oh, I like that idea. You could also do, add this, and this. And so she gets really excited about giving us input and, the whole creative process of making a book. And she makes her own comics with her friends at school. And so it's cute.
Nice. So now are you giving her creative credit in these books if she's touching up your pitches?
I should. I am giving her credit in interviews, but I haven't given her any writer credit. Maybe I should.
And so, speaking of your daughter, right? There's a really cool story about how this Powerpuff Girls special came together. By the way, for the audience, Amanda and Kat are teaming up on the upcoming Powerpuff Girls Halloween Special, out Halloween, from Dynamite Entertainment. But yeah, there's a story about how this book came together, how you guys came to be on it. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. It was really funny. We were walking home from school with her one day, and this is back in the spring, and she loves Powerpuff Girls. She has Powerpuff Girl backpack, water bottle, shoes. She's a big fan. Yeah. And she was like, I'm really worried. She's like, I've watched every episode. I've read all the books. I don't have any content left. I feel like I'm going to fall out of love with Powerpuff Girls if I don't have any more. Can you and Mama like make some Powerpuff Girl books? And we're like basically giving her a crash course in IP. We're like, oh, somebody else owns it. We can't just make this book. Unfortunately, we'd have to get hired to make it. So that's probably not something that's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But sorry. And then we got home, and then Kat just happened to see on social media that the new run of Powerpuff Girls comics was coming. And so then we were just excited for her. We're like, oh, guess what? There's going to be more comics for you to read. So you're in luck. And I tweeted at Nate, who is the editor on Powerpuff, but he was also my editor on Darkwing Duck. Mm. And so I was just like, hey, we have a Powerpuff Girl obsessed daughter who's going to be really excited to read these. And that was it. And then we took our daughter to her swim practice. And when we were there, it was like 10 minutes later, he emailed both of us and he was like, hey, do you two want to team up on a Powerpuff Girls holiday special and make your daughter super excited? Let me know if you want like the holiday one or the Halloween one or like a couple others. And so she got out of the pool, and this was 2 hours after we had just given her whole IP lecture on like, we can't do this. We can't make this happen. Right. And then I was like, okay, do you want us to do like the holidays or Halloween? And she was like, Halloween.
Which is the shortest deadline of all of the ones that we were given. So way to go.
But yeah, so Yeah, so I ate my words about 2 hours later, and now she feels like she can conjure anything she wants in the universe.
We keep having to ask for $1 million, and it just doesn't seem to manifest.
Yeah.
Man, that is awesome. So, now it's funny because like when they announced the Warner Brothers license, and for me, I think the book I was most excited about was Johnny Quest. But I saw Powerpuff Girls, and I was really surprised because when I was a kid, like I enjoyed Powerpuff Girls, but I never told anybody I enjoyed Powerpuff Girls because I'm a boy. And you don't do those things, right? Yeah. But I was very surprised at how it was like universally loved by all sorts of men everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh snap, like I wasn't the only one. That's crazy.
Right.
So I'm curious to know if you can tell us who's going to be the big bad in this Halloween special.
Well,
what page are you on?
So the really fun thing about this particular Halloween special is the concept that I came up with is that Buttercup is she's entering a horror comic contest with the Townsville newspaper. So she's trying to write a horror comic within this horror comic story. So because of that, there's the main story where it's the sparkling, they go to this hotel, some creepy things happen while she's trying to write her horror book. Mm-hmm. And
she gets a little frustrated. But within that, there's also her 3 horror story attempts that she starts, and each of those have a different big bad.
Okay.
And then there's an overarching big bad. So what I'll say is that you're going to see a lot of the villains that you love in this. And there's even Kat did multiple art styles. So for each of her comic attempts, there's some multiple art styles. So I will say one of my favorite pages is there's one time where it goes really hyper realistic, which also means the Powerpuff Girls with like their no fingers and their big eyes gets done hyper realistic. And so does
very creepy.
So does Mojo Jojo, and it is fantastic and creepy. So that's probably art wise, that's probably my favorite section.
They're so creepy when you make them
because then it gets legitimately scary.
It's like those pictures that come across every now and then of Homer Simpson, like if he was real.
Yes, definitely those vibes.
Yeah.
So there's some really fun stuff in here. But yeah, let's see, the Boogeyman's in it.
Oh, we're gonna give them all away.
Well, I won't give all of it. Okay. You'll see a bunch. You'll see a whole lot of them.
Nice. I've got to ask then, since we're on this line, who were each of your favorite Powerpuff villains? Like for me, my favorite was Mojo Jojo, but like I was legit creeped out by him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those two I think are my top 2 for sure.
I find Mojo Jojo the most fun to write. Mm-hmm. I love writing him because his dialogue, because he always over explains and over pontificates. It is so fun to write.
Right.
So he's my favorite to write, but I think he is my favorite villain by far. Although I think him might be my second favorite.
Yeah. Him was just so creepy. Like to the point where like I would turn the TV off. Like it's like, oh, it's him. But it's funny because I was going to ask you how Buttercup was going to write anything with no fingers, but
they somehow managed to hold objects. But you're also
like superpowers. I guess you can.
But in the rules, like you can't like wrap their hand around something. It has to just like stick to it.
You said that's in the rules.
All kinds of rules and drawing them.
Wow. So with that, maybe what were some other rules that maybe surprised you or challenged you?
Well, the whole thing was a challenge because I don't normally draw this way at all. I'm very realistic. And so, but yeah, it was, most of the other stuff was just like, proportions of the eyes on their face and how to properly tilt their head and keep the face correct and, give their no toe legs and no finger hands, like give their arms weight, stuff like it was just stuff like that. But yeah, I laughed at the one. It was like they can't
grab things. It's just sticks on like a sticker.
That is funny. So, Kat, I'm on your website now, just looking at different art, and you're right. There is like this sort of hyper realism at some points, and then even comparing some of that to some of your covers for Darkwing, which almost felt like abstract, like silhouettes in a way. Like, how is it adjusting your style from project to project like this?
These two were really challenging for me. I honestly was very nervous about it. But it's one of those situations that, I was discouraging myself in my head, like, you're not gonna be able to do this. Then once I did it, I was like, okay, all right. But it was just, I for each of them, I sat for a day and practiced, drawing, trying to be loose, because I tend to be very, very tight when I do stuff. And with these characters, it's like, make that circle, don't,
Right.
It's real quick. So I had to really loosen up from what I normally do. So it was really challenging that way.
Now, do you find that sort of practicing in that way makes it easier or bring something else to like your more traditional style when you go back to it?
Oh, I definitely did. I definitely did pull things from this when I went back into the other books I was working on at the same time. And I think I'm really going to get when I started to color the Powerpuff book, I really, I experimented a lot, and I found some new ways to color things that I really enjoyed. So I'll probably pull that into other things too.
Nice. Oh, what sort of things are you coloring digitally or?
Yeah. I do the majority of my coloring digitally.
Nice.
I will do pen and ink and maybe gray tones traditional, but then everything's colored digitally.
Got you. So Amanda, what's maybe your favorite part about sort of seeing some of these pages come back?
Oh, I mean, that's the most fun. That's the cool thing about writing comics in general, right? Is you have this whole thing and you visualize it. I mean, I see it in my head when I'm writing it and I'm thinking about how it's going to look on the page and panel by panel. But it's always so much better than anything that I can imagine because I'm not a visual artist. And so it's like a treat to get to see like, oh my gosh, I wrote this thing and now it's this beautiful thing because there's all this nuance or these interesting things or something done differently than I would imagine that improves it or that adds more humor to it or another layer to it. So it's so fun. It's really, really cool to get art back after you've written a comic book script.
Nice. Now, do you ever just like, I don't know, go downstairs and like, no, change this right now?
By each other. I mean, like, only if there's something, the only time that I really give Kat's note on things is if there's something that's missing that's important to the story. Like, oh, she's the whole thing is talking about her holding a red cup and she's not holding a red cup. So we got to throw that back in there, like that kind of thing. Otherwise, I trust her to do her thing and I know it's going to be good. But we do for sure. I mean, I'll read things out loud to her and say, does this work? And she'll be like, hey, do you want to come look at this page? Does this look okay to you? Or sometimes she'll be like, I'm thinking about it either this way or this way. Which one do you like better? Like which pose do you like better or which color do you like better or whatever? And we do that a lot, whether we're working together or on separate projects. We do that a lot because we're literally one room away from each other while we're working. So it's like, you've always got somebody whose opinion you trust right there. So it's like, hey, does this work?
Right. Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I said, my wife and I, we work from home for the same super boring company, right? And we don't work in the same department. So I guess, like, cause I'm a writer and she's an artist, but, joking, but, it's like, it'll be like, hey, somebody sent me this email. Does this sound right? Like, does this make sense? Should I respond this way or that way? Right. Like, so I imagine there's a safety in that you couldn't necessarily get from any other collaborator.
Absolutely. And I mean, that stuff too, sometimes we freelance. Sometimes we got to be like, hey, I have to hunt down this check. Does this sound too angry?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely the gift of having someone in your home that works in the same industry, like you can relate. It's not like, all right, yeah, I'm going to the rock quarry. Oh man, I'm so tired
Right,
of
right,
from that backhoe. But
right.
go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's cool. The other question I was going to ask, like, what do you feel like maybe the downsides? Are we okay to admit them here of working together, working in the same field, and being in the same house?
You know what is going to be crazy, because this is going to sound like I'm saying it because she's right here, but I haven't really experienced any downsides to us working together. No, that's not to say, like, we're married. I'm not saying we never have arguments, but not about work.
No.
Like, it's never the work stuff. It's more like, I don't know, the dishes stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, it's like the life stuff, not the work stuff, because I think we do both have a real respect for what the other one does. And
I'm in utter awe of what you do. I can't do that.
It's, there's not a lot of work tension, especially when we're working on stuff together.
No.
We might get frustrated about something that we're working on or that kind of thing, but yeah, we don't really fight about the creative stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we get frustrated. Like, everyone has those days where you can't draw or you can't write, or your brain in your hands are not cooperating. But yeah, we don't have any issue at all.
No. Yeah. It's been, that part's been great.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So Kat, for people who aren't familiar with your work, maybe how would you describe your art style, or maybe who are some of your influences?
I would say it's more on the real side. It's very cliche. My grandmother used to have a huge Norman Rockwell coffee table book. It's big. It's like this big. And every time I would visit, I would just spend hours and days just going through it. I must have looked at it 1,000 times. So Norman Rockwell was a big one. I also really like Chuck Jones and Charles Schultz. All those guys were Alex Toth, and then, even like Michelangelo or Caravaggio, I appreciate a good picture. If you draw a nice picture, you're probably inspiring.
Right.
Well, I love good art. I mean, even movies, I even put movies in this category. I get inspired by movies, all the time.
Do you have like a favorite cinematographer?
Not by name. I'm mostly just paying attention to what they've created on screen, and I'm not big on names of, I don't have a lot of names for cinematographers off the top of my head.
Got you. Yeah, I just remember it was a few years back, this movie, 12 Years a Slave. I think it's Steve McQueen directed it.
Yeah.
But like, we're watching this movie about just this horrible period in history, and it's a brutal film if you've not seen it.
Right. Very brutal. Very brutal.
Yeah, it's a tough watch.
Yeah,
but like,
I was shaking when it was over. I was so angry.
Yeah, but every frame in that movie, it's like I could have that just on my wall. Like it's beautiful.
Yeah. So I really appreciate a good shot. And I watch movies a lot, over and over again. I have them on in my office while I'm working. So I tend to, get to the point where I start seeing things that most people probably wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah, I was watching John Romita Jr. did an interview, and he's like talking about just some of his inspirations, right? And he's like, yeah, I get all my storytelling. I take my cues from like old movies I used to watch with my dad on TV. And he talks about like choreographing fight scenes, and like he just gets really into it. And it's just, I don't know, it's always interesting to me to hear like what inspires an artist or what they take from all these different sort of references.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. TV and film are a really good resource for storytelling.
Nice. So, getting back to this Halloween special, so you got to try out a bunch of different art styles in the special. And I guess we can't really spoil too much about what's in the book. Can you tell us how long the book is?
It's 20, well, our story is 28 pages, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, ours is 28 pages. I don't know how long the whole thing is. I don't know if there's other stories.
I'm not sure. I think there's a little something else in there, but yeah, the story that we did is 28 pages. So it's like a slightly extended single issue. It's
Right.
kind of like a holiday special. So a few more pages to finish off the story, which was fun. It was a fun length because you can kind of stretch out the moments just a little bit more, give you a little more room to play, which was nice.
Nice, nice. And so with that, you've gotten to do 28 pages of Powerpuff Girls. Do you feel like you want to do more? Or how are we looking?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that there's, I'll say it is very highly likely that I will do more and I would love to.
Yeah, I would love to possibly not say that I'm not doing more.
that works.
Yeah, not doing it.
That's cool. That works for me. That is awesome. So, yeah, it's fun because I think we're in issue 3 of Powerpuff just came out as we're filming this. Although by the time people hear it, issue 4 should be out, unless they're skipping it for the Halloween special. But either way, it's been fun for me. Like, I got 2 girls. One's 14, so like at this point, there's nothing that I will do that's like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of that. But the 3-year-old will, like, she'll come in here and she sees something that even looks even remotely child oriented, and she's like, "This is my book," and I'm like, "Sure, it's your book." So, right. So I'm excited to grab it because it's one of those books where it's like each issue is pretty much a standalone, and it's in and out. It's real quick, and I don't know. It's weird. Like trying to read a comic book to a 3-year-old is just different.
Yeah, yeah.
And because she's like, "Oh, read it to me," and I'm like, "Well, it's not. It's okay. Well, this person said this, and this person, like, I'm not doing voices. I don't know how."
Right.
But she loves looking at the pictures. So
Yeah, it's fun. No, I mean, I did the same thing when our daughter was younger, and it's just kind of like pointing at me like this. It is kind of different than reading a picture book.
Right.
So yeah, I think I just resigned to just turning pages and letting her identify things. Oh, that one's a monkey. Oh, that girl is pink. It's like, sure, that's what the book was about. Works for me. So you guys are raising a young lady, and you are very active. Like, you're a PTA mom, and you have this really cool creative career. You're freelancing. You're working from home. How does it work? Right? Like, I feel like for me, my life is just in this room, and then the rest of my house. And it's like I leave to pick up kids and come back, and it all kind of bleeds together. How do you feel where it's like, because at least I know like where my next check's coming from or when it's coming and all that all the time. But how is it for you guys sort of being, I guess, self-employed and, trying to kind of have a sense of normalcy for your kid?
I mean, yeah, the freelance thing definitely, that's its own animal, right? Because sometimes it can be stressful. We kind of always hope that at least one of us has something kind of steady coming in at a time. The ideal situation is when both of us do. But it's, most of the time we make it work and it's fine. I'm always, Kat has to kind of work on one project at a time because art takes a long time. I usually am, I'll be like pitching a couple things in outline stage of a couple other things, writing in script on something else. So like I always have like 57 irons in the fire. And, but because we both work from home, it creates a lot of flexibility that I can do all like the mom stuff, the PTA stuff. We walk our daughter to school in the morning. I can, as long as I hit my deadlines, I can go to the school and volunteer or do an event. And then, that either means I get up early and write, or I stay up late and write, or I write in, frantically while she's at school or whatever. So I actually really like the fact that I can kind of make my own hours and set it up around, because as you know, it goes really fast and they're only little for a blink.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to enjoy this time, make my schedule work. And then in a few years when she wants nothing to do with me because she's a teenager, I'll have more time to write.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's funny. That just reminded me, there was a period, this was 2017. I was unemployed for a little while. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll just pick up a camera and vlog or whatever. And there's a video. I'm taking my daughter to school. And I don't even remember what we're talking about. But she goes, and you don't even have a job, so you can just come get me whenever. And I was like, I'm sorry?
Oh, they're so brutally honest all the time.
All the time. And I was just like, I have a job. I'm taking care of you.
No shame.
Oh, man. So that's really cool, though, like that she's able to sort of see your work. She might have some wish fulfillment issues later, but that's cool. But I don't know. I think it's important to me anyway, for us to sort of be able to live as our full creative selves in front of our kids, right? Like for me, I don't care what, my kids do in life. I just want them to feel that they can do it, be secure in themselves. And then, whether it's like, okay, no, maybe you're not going to be a millionaire, but you can make a living doing pretty much anything. And so hopefully the money is not dictating what it is you do in life. And so the older I get, the more I keep comic books around in my late 30s, like, hopefully that sinks in.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but this has been a really fun conversation. I have more questions. I'm just afraid to ask because I don't want to spoil anything for Powerpuff Girls.
Go for it. We'll dance around it if we need to.
All right. So I was reading the solicits for the first issue of Powerpuff Girls, and it's like Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup Utonium. And it occurred to me in that moment that was their last name. Like I knew I knew it was Professor Utonium. Exactly. Never thought of it that way. What is maybe a surprising thing that you learned about the Powerpuff Girls through this process?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Huh.
Well, for me is that they can't grab something with their hands. They just
a stick there. I don't know how you even just I don't know. That's not even sticking.
No.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I learned like a new fun fact about them. I'm sure I did in like revisiting and rewatching. I did find a newfound love for the Boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Going back in that, I was like, oh, there's an underutilized
I really enjoyed
villain that I think I love more than I maybe thought I did the first go round. Yeah. But I don't know that that's necessarily learning something new, except maybe learning something new about myself.
Mm-hmm. And that's another question, right? Like for a lot of these projects, they're connected to animated series, so you're going back and doing all sorts of research or watching TV. Through that, like, I don't know, does it feel like homework? Is it fun to you?
It is fun. It's both.
Yeah.
It's both, right?
It's both, yeah. Yeah.
Because it's, I sit there with my little notepad in case I get an idea, because I watch them anytime I'm doing something that's connected to a television show, which I've done now several. I've done it with Teen Titans Go, DC Superhero Girls, Darkwing, and Powerpuff Girls. So I've done it several times. And I always go back and rewatch them because I want to get the character voices kind of in me,
Superpower. She can get voices so easily.
And so I watch them, and then it's when it's kid stuff, it's fun for our daughter as well, because then I'm like, do you want to do some work with mommy and watch some Powerpuff Girls? And she's like, yeah. She also, we're gonna have to deal with her concept of what work is, right? Because to her, it's a lot of like watching cartoons.
Yeah, right.
But it is fun. Sometimes it still does feel like work because I'm sitting there and I'm taking notes and I'm going back and going, now wait, okay, there's something new and interesting about that character. Oh, maybe I could do something with that and kind of go in another direction with it and that kind of thing. But it's fun work. I mean, like, that's the thing, is what we do for work is kind of always fun and work. It's like when I'm writing things, sometimes I'm stressed out and I'm on a deadline, or I'm frustrated because I can't make it work. But at the same time, it's also creatively fulfilling and fun to do, even when it's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had one licensed property that it was a bit of a effort to research, because I did a handful of issues of the Vampire Diaries with Colleen Doran. She wrote it, I drew it, and when we got that project, they were on like season 6 of the TV series that I had never watched at any point whatsoever. So yeah, I binged through 6 seasons of that show. I ended up I think they finished with 8 seasons. I ended up finishing it just because I had gotten that far. But yeah, it that one was a bit of a slog, because they're long episodes, and 22, 24 a season. So it was a lot.
Sheesh.
It was a lot of vampires.
Yeah, see, and that's why I picked comics YouTube instead of TV YouTube, because I wouldn't make it. Yeah, I mean, shoot, comics is hard enough. There are so many issues that come out every week.
Oh, there's no way you can keep up with it all. I mean, people will always ask me, off the cuff, they'll be like, "Oh, are you reading this particular? It'll be some amazing thing."
Right.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I haven't gotten to that yet." Like, because there's always just so much, you can't keep up with it all. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's kind of been the theme of my show for the last few weeks. Like, all right, one, I have a budget, but then also, even if I can afford the books, I don't have time to read them. I'm busy making YouTube videos about them. So I'm like skimming books, like, oh, okay, that looked fun, right? It's hard.
You can't do it all. You really can't.
At all. And so throughout this conversation, you guys have been super complimentary of each other's work. It's cute. But I have to ask anyway, maybe what each of your favorite part about the other's art is.
Well, like I was saying, her ability to get a voice of some of these licensed properties is mind-boggling. Her writing, it also, I am absolutely in awe of. And she's really good. But her banter is up there. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Thank you. For Kat, it's a lot of things. Her art is very gorgeous, but I really like the acting of her storytelling in her art visually. There's always so much nuance in the facial expressions and the eyes and the gestures and stuff and it's so important, especially in comics, to really convey that much emotion. And I think that that's something that she does incredibly well. But she also does art incredibly well. And she's got a Wonder Woman piece in the Library of Congress. She's doing okay, but yeah. She's like moderately talented, but yeah.
That just means I'm old and I've been doing it a long time.
No, but she's really good. And it's nice. It is the nice thing of when we're working together, I know that I'm going to be happy with the way that the story turns out, which is great.
I know I'm going to have a solid script when I get it.
Nice. That is cool. And so I got to ask before we wrap up, if there are dream projects that each of you has, like that you haven't gotten a chance to touch yet.
For a long time, my answer was to do something with Archie comics, because that was what got me into comics as a little girl. It was the first ones that I ever read, but I have one coming out soon. I finally got to write some Archie as well, so I'm excited about that. I'd love to do some X-Men. I've never done anything with X-Men, so I think that's probably the thing. And Moon Girl, because my daughter's Moon Girl obsessed.
Yes.
Yeah. But so those two I think are my bucket list right now.
Yeah. I think I would love to be able to play in the Marvel world. I've never really gotten to play in that world. I love, Spider-Man, X-Men would be fantastic. I never have really gotten to play in that world. And then the DC side, Smallville kind of helped me check off. When I worked on Smallville, I got to check off a lot of heroes that I never thought of. I mean, the book itself was Superman, but then it ended up becoming like a Justice League at the end. I mean, we had everybody in there. But I think I would love, and it's very cliche, and I know everybody's doing it, and there's 1,000 books, but I really would love to do some Batman.
Listen, I mean,
one more book that I can do.
Right. There's got to be an open spot.
1,000 of them, but I really love Batman.
Listen, I wouldn't complain. Apparently, nobody else would either, because there are so many.
Apparently, he got his star today. You know?
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
I feel like they should have picked a better costume. I don't know. But,
I missed that. I just saw the star.
Oh yeah, no, they got a guy in a bat suit to accept the star, and I was just like, huh, it does make sense. But I'm like, of all the bat suits, I don't know. So another Bat book, maybe some work on the X-Men. I think, I don't know, Tom Brevoort says that he wants there to be an X-Men comic debuting every month for the foreseeable future. So there's got to be somebody out there. Let's make it happen. There's got to be room for the Amanda Deibert Cat Staggs X-Men series. That's fun. So what would your ideal X-Men team be?
Well, honestly, I just want an excuse to write Storm, because she's been my favorite since I was young. So that's really, I'm just looking for an angle to get to Storm is really my whole.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah. I'm with her on that one. That she's got the best powers.
Yes. I got a Storm poster like literally right in front of where my camera is. You can't see it, but it's there.
I can feel it. Feel it.
Man, it's funny. Storm, like I bought these. I buy a lot of comic T-shirts. I should probably write them off somehow. But the X-Men 97 shirts, Storm always seems to get left off of them. But I just got one in today from Old Navy, and their Storm is right in the middle of the pack. And I'm like, yes, it's great.
Old Navy coming through.
So now I'm going to have to look on Old Navy is what I've just learned.
So Old Navy.
Right. They've got a pretty good selection of Marvel shirts. DC has terrible licensing, but Marvel's pretty well represented.
Yeah. Good.
But anyway, I'm rambling, and it's because it's late at night. But I appreciate you both coming in to really just share your stories. Appreciate you keeping the appointment and talking Powerpuff Girls. So the Powerpuff Girls Halloween Special, like a good journalist, I looked it up. No, really, I'm looking it up right now. It comes out October 23rd. And this episode comes out right before then. So check it out. Go to your local comic shop. It's too late to pre-order. FOC has passed. But run to your local comic shop. It's Halloween. It's Dynamite. There will be at least 1 million covers for you to choose from. So go grab those, and then be on the lookout for more Powerpuff Girls, or not. Definitely not any more Powerpuff Girls.
I actually can safely say a new cover came out today in the solicits.
That you did, yeah.
Yeah, so I did a winter one. There's snowboarding.
Nice. I actually did just see that. I got it confused with the...
Yep, that's me.
That is an awesome cover. And it's funny, like, I mean, we've been talking about you sort of approximating styles, right? But you can see like the almost paint strokes here, but then it does still look decidedly Powerpuff. Like, I love that your style still comes through. It's not just like, all right, let's just do this thing.
Slap some paint on. Yeah, no.
Right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, Powerpuff Girls, the Halloween special, out October 23rd. Get it wherever your comic books are sold, probably a comic shop, and then be on the lookout for more from these two great ladies. And you guys, where can people follow you if they want to see more of your work?
I'm Amanda Deibert on most, at Amanda Deibert on most things, Amanda Deibert official on Instagram. And then I have amandadeibert.com.
Yeah, I'm Cat Staggs on pretty much everything except Instagram is Cat Staggs Official.
So everybody's real official on Instagram.
Well, someone had my name.
Yeah.
Someone had my name, and it was an Instagram that's just full of pictures of cats. And I was like, that is not me.
That is amazing. That's the best use of a Cat Staggs account, maybe. So, well, yeah, so follow them at Amanda Deibert Official and Cat Staggs Official on Instagram. And be on the lookout for more. Huge thanks to Dynamite for setting this up. And huge thanks to you guys for your time and sharing your experience. And then huge thanks to you, the audience, watching this on YouTube and listening at home. Really appreciate you guys. I don't know what you're doing after you listen to this, but hopefully you stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.